So I have got a confession.
What?
We're doing this particular movie, aren't we?
Yeah.
I absolutely hate fairground rides.
Do you?
Yeah. I always have, you know. I just can't stand them. I hate being upside down. I hate all of it. And one of the most embarrassing stories, and I know the people that know me, they will laugh at it. Funny enough, a pirate ship one. Only a little one. And I thought, the kid's little. Well, Sophie was little. I'll have to go on with her. So I got on Scott and nearly passed out.
Really?
Yeah. And it wasn't even a big ride, but it's just the whole motion of it. I think I just turned green, and I'm pretty convinced at one point I passed out. There was nothing I could do. You can't get off, can you? You can't just say to the bloke, excuse me, no, can I just get off, and everyone else could just carry on. See, so it was awful. But you like them?
I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. I'm a little bit scared, but once I get on them and do them, I love it.
Isn't that the thing that draws people in? Is it? Maybe I just don't like being scared.
Yeah. No. The idea of being on them, I don't. But when I do it, it's boss. And I remember we did Blackpool a couple of years back, and it was me, Jackie, Jane, Josh, and Jackie will never forgive me, but I'll show you the photograph. We were on the big one, and it takes the photograph of you, the person sat next to you, and Jane and Josh. So the four of us were like, me and
all
Jackie,
in the same
photograph thing. So we're all just like that. Jackie's face managed to make herself look like a thumb. It was awful. It was just the most awful photograph ever. And then when you go and collect photographs afterwards, everyone was pissing themselves.
Just see theirs.
Yes. It was and then another thing, there's one where you go on and there's water and you get splashed. Jane and Josh down and just put me and Jackie were behind him just throwing the water at them. And he didn't know, they thought it was the ride.
Do you now, yeah. I remember when the big one was getting built.
Yeah.
I don't think it opened or was about to open, but I got to go on an airship. And the airship flew the big, it was when the Orange Network had just come out.
Yeah, the big blimp.
Thing, the big blimp. And I think the blimp was at 500 feet. But the big one goes up to 250 feet. So when you're in the blimp looking down, you were like, nope, that is just way too... It's just way too big, way too high. And you couldn't... Honestly, I think if you offered me £1 million, I'd probably say no, you know. Hello and welcome to Watch It If You Can. My name is Dave.
My name is Liam.
This podcast is all about box sets we've created of our favourite films and TV shows. Some you've seen, some you won't, and others you may never want to watch. However, we can say, if you've never seen Friends, don't worry, we wouldn't leave you at the altar. All we want to do is chat on about these films and TV shows that we love so dearly, and maybe, just maybe, you should watch it if you can. Liam?
Dave?
How are you?
I'm alright.
There's a good one this week.
It is.
Should we dive right in?
Yeah, we'll dive straight in. This week, Dave, it is Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh, excellent choice.
Yeah. Okay, so the 2003 Walt Disney and Jerry Bruckheimer blockbuster starring Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, Jeffrey Rush, Jonathan Pryce and Jack Davenport. Hijinks on the high seas. It's a bit of a complex plot, so I'm not even going to bother going there at some point. Most of the people have seen it anyway. Basically, you've got pirates, you've got the English Navy, you've got ships, Caribbean locations and cursed Aztec gold. What more do you want? Last couple of episodes, we've tried to pick a link out, and I've managed to get a link from last week's My Cousin Vinny, which is quite direct as well. So, Gore Verbinski, who directed this film, Pirates of the Caribbean, also directed, remember the film Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane and Lee Evans?
Yeah.
Also in that film was Maury Shaken, who played Sam Tipton, one of the witnesses who took the stand in My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, nice link.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I spotted that last week. Remember when I went on my deep dive?
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to keep that one for next week. I didn't go all in last week. I kept one back. One other link we've got from our previous box set is Crimson Tide, in the fact that it's a bit of a nautical theme, and of course, both produced by Jerry Bruckheimer.
We love Bruckheimer, don't we?
Oh, yes.
So why, matey, have you made the choice to put it on your list?
Have you got more of these?
There's got to be a few.
There's
Yeah.
got a few puns. Okay, I do love a big blockbuster, and this is not a boss little movie. It's the absolute.
It's a boss big movie.
It's the complete opposite. I think when we picked this box set, I wanted a blockbuster for different reasons, and I was trying to think of one outside of Star Wars, MCU, and the Harry Potter franchises, and I was like, I love this film. Do you know what I mean? The franchise is okay. Some of the later ones, they do go down in quality as each one goes, but the first couple are really good films. But it's also a boss example of how sometimes an outright Hollywood studio production, when it clicks, can just be brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Its very being as a film is purely came into creation purely for Disney to get more people to go on a ride in their Disney park, because it was the ride came first. Weirdly enough, it was they had the ride and he wanted to make a film to encourage more people to go.
Yeah, the ride's been around for years, hasn't it?
So it was like it was literally. And when you think about it, but it still works. And I think we've had this conversation before when we've mentioned about controversial people involved in TV and films. There are so many people involved in the creative process of a film. So although it's a big Hollywood blockbuster, everyone doing their part is bringing their own game. So you've got like all the costume people, all the set designers, the director, the actors, everyone is being creative, and it's a perfect example of when it all clicks. And even though it's a big Hollywood movie, it's just magic.
So I read it nearly didn't get made at all.
Yeah.
So Michael Eisner and Robert Iger at Disney, they were ready to pull the plug, weren't they? It was Bruckheimer that convinced them with some of the concept art and the animatronics that they'd done to make it. So we nearly didn't get this film at all.
They balked at the amount of money it was going to cost, but then I think they pointed out, well, the game now is Lord of the Rings. That was the big thing at the moment, and they were like, you've got to compete.
Yeah, true. So who's in it? What have they been in? What else would we have seen them that we've either seen or we would like to watch?
Well, what I've done, because it's quite a big cast, I've just picked out a couple of things for each of them that I think you should go back and watch. First of all, you got Jack Sparrow, played by Johnny Depp, the one and only.
Did you see who nearly played him?
There was quite a few, actually, wasn't there?
De Niro.
De Niro turned it down.
Yeah, but then later did.
Because he said, oh, pirate films don't make any money.
Exactly, yeah. But he did play a pirate then later on, didn't he?
Yeah. But the actual original script was knocking around for about 15, 20 years. And I think there's quite a few. I think Bill Murray was sort of lined up at one point,
really?
maybe, to look at. So basically, the original script was done by two, because there's about 4 or 5 writers on it, isn't it? The original one was hawked around for years, and it was taken up by Disney. And it wasn't until Jerry Bruckheimer got involved he brought in another 2 writers, and basically the bit they added was the whole cursed gold bit. He just thought that's the bit that was missing, then they added that bit. Yeah. So it was one of them. You hear this of scripts floating around Hollywood for 15, 20 years before they eventually get made, and they have so many people have come and gone on the project. But yeah, I think but I think when you read about it, was loads of people who was attached. It was one of them.
Once a Disney film's out, isn't it, everyone's probably,
I believe Christopher Walken was considered at one point as well, which I just can't see.
As Jack?
Yeah. I was like,
Could sort of see it, because he is a bit, zany, isn't he? Yeah. He's a bit off the beat.
But it would have been interesting. So, a couple of films regarding Johnny Depp. He's done a lot. He's got a big bibliography, filmography even. The few I've picked out is I think you've got to see What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is one of the films that just put him on the road.
Yeah, how old do you think he was? 18, 19 maybe?
Yeah, and you forget Leonardo DiCaprio was in that as well.
Yeah, and he was like teenager, wasn't
Yeah,
he? Like young teen, sorry.
Absolutely amazing film. One of his also early ones, Benny and June. It was a really good film. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember Benny and June, yeah.
Really good. And I picked a couple of his gangster ones, Donnie Brasco and Blow, a couple of my favourites.
I'll put Blow.
I've purposely not put any Tim Burton films on that list.
Oh, I have.
Well, I'm going to be...
not what you think.
I'm going to be controversial. They don't do it for me. Tim Burton
You don't
films.
enjoy them? No, not like Edward Scissorhands or anything. To be honest, I haven't gone with that. So for Johnny Depp, I've gone with Black Mass, which is where he played James Whitey Bulge. It was based on a true story.
Yes,
that's a really good film. Blow, I put as well.
Yeah.
I just love the scene in Blow where they've got too much money.
Yeah,
haven't they? Like the house is full of money. I just love that scene. But the two I've gone with are actually animated ones. I've gone with Rango.
Yeah,
and I've gone with Corpse Bride.
Oh, interesting.
Which is Tim Burton, and it's great. But I've also just one just honourable mention: the episode of the Fast Show in 2000,
and also the episode of Vicar of Dimbleby.
He wasn't he?
Yes, which people forget he's amazing in the Fast Show. He was a big fan of the Fast Show, wasn't he? Big fan. Tim Burton films do not do it for me. I can appreciate he's talented and he's a bit of a quirky voice. They leave me a bit cold. They don't do it for me at all.
So one of the things we were talking about doing was films neither of us have seen. So have you seen Big Fish?
No.
Oh, okay, that might have to go on the list then, because that is a Tim Burton film that I think you'll like.
I've not seen. I've seen most of his films. The Batman ones are doable because it's Michael Keaton as Batman. The rest, I really...
not a fan. No. Addams Family, no.
No.
I'm trying to think of some others now off the top of my head, but yeah,
struggle with them all. Struggle with any Tim Burton film.
I do like those kooky kind of films though, so I love them. And Wednesday, which is the Netflix show, I think that's brilliant.
So is he like executive producer or something?
I think he directs some of the episodes.
Okay. Who else have we got in the film? We've got the character Elizabeth Swann, played by Keira Knightley. I think she was only 17 or something when she
18.
Yeah,
18 when it came out, I think.
A couple of things you need to watch with Keira Knightley, and Atonement was the big film that got her up and running. I just think is an absolutely fantastic film. Begin Again with Mark Ruffalo is a really good one as well.
Oh, I haven't got that. I don't think I've seen that.
She plays a songwriter, and her boyfriend is... Her and her boyfriend are songwriters, and he hits it off big time and basically leaves her, and she has to rebuild her own career. And Mark Ruffalo is like a disgraced record producer or something like that, and he sort of team up. It's a good film, actually. What else have I... Imitation Game is probably the one I'd say. If you're going to watch a Keira Knightley film, watch that. It's a fantastic film. That is really good. Also in the film, there's character Barbossa, played by Jeffrey Rush, who's just a fantastic actor. Couple of picks I've got for him are he voices Nigel in Finding Nemo.
He does, yeah.
So he's good one. And I think the couple you really got to see, The King's Speech is a great film. Shakespeare in Love, I always forgot he was in that as well.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen that. And the film that really sort of brought him to everyone's attention is Shine, where he plays the piano prodigy. It's just like an amazing film.
I've got a couple. Can I just go back to Keira Knightley?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I've got a couple where... Only because I watched it recently, Boston Strangler on Disney.
Okay, is it a film or a series?
It's a film, yeah. Just a one-off movie. She's really good in that. Another film called Official Secrets, which came out, I think, a couple of years ago. That's definitely worth a watch. I had Imitation Game and Atonement. Domino, the Tony Scott film.
Oh,
have you seen that?
No.
That's worth a watch. But I threw this one in just purely because most of it was filmed here. The Jack Ryan movie with Chris Pine. She's in that playing Chris Pine's wife, but a lot of that was filmed here as like Liverpool like was meant to be Russia and stuff.
Okay.
But the actual film was really good, and she's good in it as well.
Don't think I've seen that one.
But Jeffrey Rush, one I picked out was a film with Pierce Brosnan called Tale of Panama. Have you seen that?
No.
That's definitely worth a watch.
He hasn't done a lot of films, Jeffrey Rush, considering he's been around for the last couple of years he's hardly done nothing. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but literally I looked on his IMDb. I think he's done like 2 films in the last 5 years or something like that.
Well, there's rumours of a Mystery Men sequel, and he was Casanova Frankenstein. Have you seen Mystery Men with Ben Stiller? Have you never seen that?
No.
It's like it's a superhero movie, but they've got no superpowers basically. And I think Ben Stiller's I can't remember the character name now. I'm going to get wrong with something. I can't remember, it's like Captain Fury. He just gets angry. His superpowers, he just gets angry.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I think the only one with actual superpowers is the is it Roy Kinnear? I'm going to get it wrong, but he there's one genuine superhero and then the Mystery Men lot. I can't believe you haven't seen Mystery Men.
No.
Put it on your list, but Jeffrey Rush is he's in it as well.
Oh, I'll take that one out. Next, we've got Will Turner, who is played by Orlando Bloom, and obviously slaughtered rings for Orlando Bloom. Apart from that, I don't think I've seen anything with him in. I was weirdly, when I went down the list, I was like, I don't know. No. But I did pull out one film I definitely want to watch. Something, it's a bit of a spoof about the cycling doping scandal, and it's called Tour de Pharmacy.
Oh, I haven't seen that. No.
I was looking at that looks quite interesting. But apart from that, and obviously he's in 6 Lord of the Ring films anyway, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And 5, 6.
Have you not seen Carnival Row?
No.
So that's really good. That's an Amazon Prime series, and the 2nd season's just been on, and he's really good in that. The other thing I read is this nearly went to Heath Ledger.
Yes.
He was considering. They went with Orlando Bloom because he'd just been in Lord of the Rings, hasn't he?
Basically it, yeah.
But
it was Jeffrey Rush had just done the film Ned Kelly with Orlando Bloom that brought him to the attention of is it Gore Verbinski, the director?
Yeah.
He wasn't even on the radar at that
really?
point, and he brought him in to read, and he said, and then it was ended up between him and Heath Ledger.
Right. Well, he's not got a huge part, but he's in Black Hawk Down.
Yes.
Which is a great film. But this one I've picked as well is another little bit of a cameo, same as the Johnny Depp. He's in Extras.
Yeah,
he's in the first episode,
yes.
And he's absolutely brilliant in it. The line where he says, I think he's talking about Johnny Depp, isn't he? And he's making comments about him, but he says Willy Wonka. He goes, Willy Wonka. Yes. But apparently he had to ring Johnny Depp and say, look, these are the jokes I'm going to be doing. We're sort of taking the piss out here. And Johnny Depp, obviously, he's a cool guy, isn't he? He just let him do it. But I just think that episode alone, he's so good in. Anyone else in it?
I've got a couple of more here. Jack Davenport. I've forgotten his character. I didn't write his character's name down. He was the Commodore.
James Novington.
Yeah. I forgot Jack Davenport's in the morning show, the Apple TV some,
which I still haven't seen yet.
With Jennifer Aniston. It is fantastic, and Steve Carell is fantastic in it because he's quite a horrible character, and I love seeing Steve Carell playing horrible people. He does it so well. You think he's a comedy actor, but he's done some really.
I've just watched that recent FX show that is it called The Psychiatrist? It's where he's kidnapped. His psychiatrist gets kidnapped and put in basically in the lad's loft, and he's brilliant in that as well. That's purely serious. Did you used to watch Coupling?
No.
So Jack Davenport was in Coupling, British comedy on in the 90s.
Well, I picked out This Life, which is what he came. Did you ever see this? It was BBC show between 96 and 97. It was groundbreaking. So it was basically set in a house in London, a house share of all these lawyers and solicitors who were just starting out in their career, and it was groundbreaking. Andrew Lincoln, it was his first thing as well. I remember because I was in college, and I was doing media studies in college. It was a big thing because it was so real. It was about 6 young professionals who smoked, drank, did drugs, but we're still going. We're
fully functioning adults.
Yeah,
still.
it was like, oh my god, this is like, it was quite risque for BBC to do, but it was a massive hit. Great soundtrack as well.
No,
really, like, obviously, look, Jackson Martin and Andrew Lincoln were both the main male actors. They've both gone on and had fantastic careers. That's definitely worth a shout.
I've got Kingsman as well. He's in Kingsman, and he was in Flash Forward, which I don't think you'll have watched. It got cancelled after one season. It was like going to be the next, like, Lost, basically. It was the series was all about, like, everyone in the world passes out for about 5 minutes, but everyone wakes up and they've got visions of the future.
I remember,
and it was huge, like posters, billboards, and then it just got cancelled. But he's in The Boat That Rocked.
I've got that.
Have you got that?
What's his character name?
Twat.
Yeah, literally what I wrote down.
With 3 T's.
Yes. I was like, you and me are just such the same toilet humour, aren't we? Yeah, and just a couple of mentions of who else was in it. Zoe Saldana. She didn't really have a very big role in it. But I'm sure I've read somewhere that if you add up Zoe Saldana...
That was going to be my question to you.
Is she the highest grossing actor? Like, just in ratio of films?
I think Samuel L. Jackson probably just beats her because of Star Wars. But if you include the Pirates... Like, if you want to include this, which she isn't a big part, but... If you include the 2 Avatar movies, and you include the MCU movies she's in, she's right up there. I think Samuel Jackson probably just pips her.
But I would say for ratio of money and then films, I think she's... Because Samuel Jackson's done hundreds of films, do you know what I mean? But, like, because I remember...
The 2 Avatar films is automatically, like, near on 4 billion, isn't it, already?
Well, just while we're talking about it, when it was... the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is 15th in the top 20 biggest franchises grossing, and obviously the MCU is number 1. But what I found quite funny was just the 4 Avengers film is still number 5 in that list as well. Like, you know what I mean? Which goes to show. I think the MCU's grossed 28 billion. Star Wars is next on the list at 10 billion. Sorry.
Apparently she didn't have a good time on this film.
No, she said it was. It wasn't. She said it wasn't the cast. It was the whole, like,
everything
behind the scenes. She just didn't like it. And one honourable mention, and I think he's actually one of the funniest characters in it. Mackenzie Crook plays one of the pirates. He actually has quite a lot of scenes in it.
Well, before you do that, I've got one more because it'll just slightly link to our episodes.
Oh, go on.
Jonathan Pryce. Who's Elizabeth's dad.
He wasn't in Young Guns.
He definitely wasn't in Young Guns, but he's in Slow Horses, which is on Apple TV with Gary Oldman. He's amazing in that. He was obviously in Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I love him in Tomorrow Never Dies, but this is a link to City of God. He was in Brazil. By Terry Gilliam. So sorry. I just wanted to get me Brazil link in.
Get a Brazil link. I like it.
So Mackenzie Crook,
yeah. And obviously The Office. And what's the one on BBC where
Detectivists with Toby Jones?
That is such a good programme. Very underrated. I
love that.
It is so subtle, and them two together are just absolutely fun. Because he's a great actor, Toby Jones, as well.
Oh, and he's everywhere at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah.
He was in that Tetris movie that's on Apple as well.
Yeah.
I love him. Yeah, and in Marvel as well.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite character then?
I have got one honourable. Remember I said I'm going to...
one honourable, one main.
One honourables. Elizabeth Swann, I just thought Keira Knightley just played the character really well. It was nice to actually see a female role that pretty much wasn't just there and does nothing. She's quite a forceful character.
She comes back to save Will, doesn't she?
Yeah. I just think she's a great character and it's really well written. I think she absolutely plays it so well, especially because, like we said, she was only 17, 18 when it was made as well. Apparently they, when you were doing one night, they used to do nighttime scenes out actually on the water. And her mum used to go everywhere with her, and they were coming back from a nighttime scene and he hit a reef that was underground, and they're in a boat sank, and it took them a couple of hours before they got rescued. They weren't in any danger or nothing like that,
but stranded basically.
And apparently after that they basically pulled all the nighttime filmings, and they basically they went and did the rest in the studio and all afterwards, but because of that.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh.
But it's part of that, because if you lose one of your leading cast,
it's
going to cost
you a big
you a
issue,
lot,
isn't it? But obviously, my favourite character, it's Jack Sparrow. I know we don't always pick the main character, but I think Johnny Depp has just created one of the most iconic Hollywood characters. It's flawless. His character is flawless. His performance is flawless. His attention to detail in the character is amazing, because apparently he had so many more ideas that Disney were like, but I think he did that thing where he came in with like 20 ideas, knowing that Disney would say, oh, you can't have, because one of his ideas was he had his nose bit off in a fight.
I've seen that, yeah.
He was petrified of pepper, as in black pepper, and he was terrified of getting a cold and all these little things and these little quirks. But in the end, they let him go.
I think it's like a compromise then.
Yeah, so they let him go with the gold teeth. But apparently when he was doing the research, he was reading that actually when you look into the history of pirates and all that, what you see on TV and that wasn't quite like that. They were almost a bit like... he read they were almost as like rock gods of the day. They were quite popular because, do you know what I mean? It was quite a glamorous thing to do, do you know what I mean? So the idea of basically playing him as Keith Richards is just genius. And apparently Disney, when they were like first got wind of it, were absolutely terrified. They were just like...
So I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? We're not big fans of film executives, are we?
No.
But bear with me here. Put yourself in their shoes, right? You're making Pirates of the Caribbean, Jerry Bruckheimer film, Gore Verbinski, big action movie. You've got one of the biggest stars. Are you expecting an Indiana Jones, Han Solo? I'm trying to think of other sort of male, sort of leading kind of characters. You know, like a Robin Hood, James Bond. If I'm the studio exec and someone's come in and go, we're making this movie, here's all the criteria and here's who we've got, I am thinking Indiana Jones. Oh. I am thinking the star is going to be a big hero.
All day long.
So do you understand the nervousness when they first seen it?
Yes, and also, at this point, Johnny Depp was a well-respected actor, but he wasn't a bankable star at this point.
No, he wasn't a blockbuster.
So it was still a risk for Disney to have him in this movie, and you're right, but
he was a young, good-looking.
Yes,
they knew it was going to bring in the blokes for the action, and then casting Orlando Bloom, Johnny Depp. Hopefully, then pulls in everyone else as well. But I do understand why they must have watched those clips and went, "What is he doing?" Because if you're not watching the whole film. And you're just seeing clips of this man running around. Like, now, the description is he's Keith Richards meets Bugs Bunny and Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah,
it is that comical element. I don't think they expected that.
To be fair, great shout for Johnny Depp to go with it and stick with it and pull it through. And I think Gore Verbinski, the director, he was fully on board with it as well, because I think I think he saw what it could be. And I think as well what the director respected was the amount of rehearsal he put in to get their mannerisms, the way he moved. His run is absolutely funny.
Hilarious,
and it's great because you only actually see it once in the first film. I think later on it becomes a bit more of like, but it's just iconic. That run is something else. It cracks me up.
But he's not like a Zorro.
No,
if you think of Antonio Banderas as Zorro, he's cool, isn't he? People want to be him and stuff. I don't really think... Does anyone really want to be Jack?
No. It's such a strange character, and I think only Johnny Depp could have done it. If do you know what I mean? I think in the hands of another actor doing what he wanted to do, I don't think it would have worked. And you're right. And it's funny you mentioned Indiana Jones, because you'll see why later. But you're right. That's who you think it should be. The leading
and probably all of us seeing the trailers and seeing the posters going in. I did expect. I was thinking this is the new Indiana Jones.
You just
Robin
didn't.
Hood
You
type.
just didn't. It's so out of kilt, and also it completely blows away every idea you have of what a pirate should be in a film. You know, because the old thing, they talk with that Owar accent, not because that's where they were from. It was that very first pirate film back in the day where the pirate. Where the actor,
Long John Silver type one.
The actor came from that, like from where it's Bristol way, isn't it? And it's stuck. And even in a film like Jeffrey Rush, slightly goes between Irish and Bristolian. I've got to say, John, whichever part you think of the film is. But I just think depth, detail in the character just pays off. I do, and I think it's just absolutely he nails it, and it is iconic. And the little tiny touches, like if you notice, like you were saying, is like when he's on the boat, he's dead still, but when he's on land,
all over the place.
Yeah, I love that. It's just.
So do you want me to say mine?
Go on.
Mine's James Norrington.
Interesting.
So I've gone, and I'll tell you why, because he could have been sleazy.
Yes.
Because normally in these films, the guy that's going to marry the main actress,
they're a bit over the top.
You don't want them to get together. Usually, you know, he could have been like a big posh bully, and it could have been one of those where, you know, you don't want them to get married. I don't know, does he hits her, he's horrible to her, he's old to everyone else. But he's actually a really good guy, and I think if she did end up with him, I don't think it would have been a bad thing for her in the character. And I do think as well, he has got one of the best lines in the film, which is where he says, that is without doubt the worst pirate I've ever seen. But then Jack robs the ship.
Yes.
And the officer next to him, literally it's about 5 seconds later, goes, that's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen. So I love that scene, but it's his face, because he's literally just said he's the worst one, and then he steals his ship.
I'm not far away. I see it. I think that's where the director did really well in this film, is they didn't go down the cheesy obvious routes for all the characters. Like Jeffrey Rush Barbosa is actually quite an interesting bad guy as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
because ideally you'd want to stay the way they are, wouldn't you? But they're actually trying to get back to being human.
It's the fact that as well is they're permanently hungry as well. Have you got onto that?
Yeah, they don't feel.
And it's like it's not like they're not being egotistical to take over the world. They just want to get back to being human.
This is where the film's in reverse, because normally the film would be about finding the gold to get the curse to live forever. Yeah. You know, and roam the seas and do what you want, and no one can stop you, basically, and take over. The story about the bad guys always we want to take over the world, isn't it? So I think if the story was in reverse, you get the gold, go take over the world because no one can kill you, and no one can stop you. But it's the total opposite. But another line though, just why I like James Norrington's characters, he says to Will Turner, "Don't think you're the only one that cares for her." Which again, you know, they could have done it where he's not a bad guy at all.
And I think it's easy as well to make the English Navy into arseholes.
Basically.
Do you know what I mean? We know our history in the world. We weren't very nice people to.
But he gives Jack a day to get away, doesn't he? Yeah. Just little things like that. So I went with James Norrington for mine. Have you got a favourite scene then?
I've got a couple. I think the opening, the first time you see Jack arrive in Port Royal, and you see him on the ship, and you think it's a big day, like it's the theme, and he's coming in, and it pans out like this little dinghy, and
it's just on the mast, isn't he?
And then at the point he actually comes on, it's just sinking, and he just literally steps off the ship and walks onto the jetty, and I just think that says it all about Jack Sparrow. That do you know what I mean?
He hasn't spoke at this point either.
You know this reason. This is not your usual pirate from a film. Yeah. And again, going back to what we just said, for Disney to take, I can see why they had their worries when they were like, oh my god. But when you see the context of the whole picture, it's brilliant. My other couple of little favourite scene is the bit you've just mentioned with Jack tricks the Navy as he thinks he's stealing Dauntless, but then runs off with
the faster ship.
Yeah,
basically.
I just think it's a great scene. And then likewise, it mirrors that later on in the film where he then plays off both Barbossa's crew and the Navy at the end.
Yeah.
So we those little plays, and because they sort of mirror each other in the film as well. But my favourite, it's not scene, it's my favourite bits in the movies are the battle set pieces on the ships. They are absolutely fantastic. They are something that I believe only Jerry Bruckheimer production could do. I think
the music and everything.
And in particular, there's two really good battles, but the one moment that every time I watch it and I just go, yes, is the bit where the Black Pearl is chasing down the Inceptor and Elizabeth tells them to drop the anchor, and the anchor and it spins round, pivots, so they're side by side and you've got the guns ready. I jump out my seat every time. It's one of the, and that's what a Hollywood blockbuster can do when you pull it off. It's I just jump out my seat with delight every time that moment happens. So it's definitely my favourite moment.
So I had three. One, the main one I was going to say, but you've said it. It is Jack's first appearance.
Yeah,
I think that's brilliant. The way that the camera just backs up and there he is just standing on the mast. But the other two that I mentioned is I think the first time that you see all the pirates when they're actually cursed, that first time where Elizabeth comes out and it's the moonlight and they're all the skeletons stuff, I think the effects are so brilliant for it as well. I love that scene. But one of my favourite is Jack at the end when he strokes the wheel of the ship and he says, "Now bring me that horizon."
Yeah.
And he improvised that line and they kept it in.
Apparently there's quite a lot of lines that he improvised.
You can imagine, yeah. But that line, "Bring me that horizon," is just an amazing line. And apparently there's a British metal band now called Bring Me That Horizon.
Oh, like, where'd you get your name? Pirates of the Caribbean. I love it.
So it's this is proper loud blockbuster, hard pumping music. Have you got like recommendations from the soundtrack?
I have actually. So the soundtrack was conducted and written by a composer called Klaus Badelt, I think it's pronounced. The Gore Verbinski, is it Verbinski? Gore Verbinski, the director. Yeah. He initially had another composer, but I don't think he saw eye to eye with Jerry Bruckheimer. I think Jerry Bruckheimer's got quite a way of working, especially with composers. So we brought in Hans Zimmer, but Hans Zimmer was already working on other films. So he said, look, I'll oversee it, but this is your man. This is this guy now. So Klaus Badelt, and again, in typical Hans Zimmer fashion, it's big orchestra numbers, loads of strings, loads of horns, loads of rhythm. I went on, actually did a little bit of reading about it. It wasn't well liked, the score, because for musicality reasons when it first came out. There was like a few, because quite often we don't, classical music these days, the nearest we have to it is film scores, isn't it? It's that thing. So apparently, it comes back to that little bit of the snobby arguments, is apparently when it first came out there was a lot of classical music fans took a little bit of offence to it, because classical music is made up of what's called counterpoints, which are multiple music lines that playing different things are sort of intertwined and playing with each other. That's the definition of classical music, whereas this is very simple melody and harmony, and that's that one tune. So apparently it was a little bit scoffed at. I was like, this is I think I love it. I think it's absolutely fun. And it's that little bit what we mentioned before, didn't really get to mention much about it, but that arguments of art and popular culture, because it's the same as arguments as I always remember seeing a documentary with Quincy Jones, and he was slagging off the Beatles because he's like a big boss jazz musician. He's like, they were rubbish musicians. Ringo didn't have a clue what he was doing, and because they hated the idea that basically the Beatles sold more records than anyone else in the world, and they wrote music that people wanted to listen to, and that's the bit
Right.
that sort of attitude of like, just
That's
because
a catchy tune,
just
that's
because
it.
it sells well, it's void of culture. But no, does it sell well because people like it? Do you know, it's and that all comes in to this as a Hollywood blockbuster. It's, do you dislike something because it's popular? Well, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you say, I'm not watching that, it's just a stupid Disney film. But it's a great film. Why wouldn't? So it's that same argument. So
Yeah.
I was doing a bit like I said, this is, and it's sort of funny how that little sort of highlight about the music sort of reflects the whole film as well. It's that same argument. Well, they were like, it's not proper classical music. There's no counterpoint to it. It's a boss soundtrack. A couple of the bits I've picked out. You've got the medallion calls, the Black Pearl, Will and Elizabeth, and he's a pirate.
He's a pirate. It's amazing.
But what it does really well, and this is what popular music does really well, it's repetition. So there's a what's called in musical terms a leitmotif, which is like a little calling sound. So that was Jack Sparrow. The da is associated with Jack Sparrow in the film, very similar to when you watch Star Wars, when Darth Vader walks on, it's da, and it's the same, and it's that use of repetition between different songs. I think it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, anything with Hans Zimmer anyway is brilliant. Coming back to what you were saying about that, linking it to the characters, Doctor Who does it really well.
Yeah.
You can hear a piece of music, go, that's Matt Smith's Doctor there. Or,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
David Tennant's Doctor.
So it's a German phrase. It's pronounced leitmotif, but it's not spelled it. And I was like, remember I said I was going to try and bring a technical term into each episode. I was like,
That's this week's technical term. The little thing that sort of flashes up to let you know.
Technical term coming up, leitmotif. But yeah, I thought it was like that little snapshot of that sort of, the music's very, that's
The snobbishness of it.
Is literally the same argument you could have about the whole film itself. And I was like, I love me movies, I love me TV, but I'm not going to dislike something just because it sells loads
Disney
of tickets.
and it was a ride.
And it was quite weird as well. Just speaking of that, it was the very first Disney film that wasn't like a general U rating.
Was it an R?
How long have you had that one waiting for?
I've been waiting for since we started, to be honest.
Oh, love it.
So, what, if anything, would you have done to make it better?
You've mentioned it already, and
Oh, what?
it's the very, very end. Literally the bit where
You don't like the Bring Me the Horizon, my favourite bit?
no, not that bit as such. Is the fact that Will goes and rescues Jack, and then they're all at the top of the tower, and basically Jack jumps off the water, and then all the army are there, and Elizabeth comes and goes, no, and then they all just go right at the end. Oh, yeah. It's like they all just stood around looking at each other and go, there's going to be a sequel. Can't even be asked doing anything at this point. Do you know? And
So should Jack have just said, we'll get him in the sequel?
I don't.
Rather than let's give him another day.
It was. I don't. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I have no issue, and I think setting up a sequel in a movie is a talent in itself. But it was almost, they didn't even try. They all just. It was at one point they all just stood there, like shrugged their shoulders, and like, like so you got Jonathan Pryce, the dad there, Elizabeth.
Yeah. He tells them to lower the guns, though,
Yeah,
to be fair.
but it was a bit
I know
like,
what you mean.
But it was a bit like,
But I suppose part of it was kind of like, what really are we arresting Jack for now? Because, he hasn't, along with Will, he sort of saved Elizabeth. So there's I suppose, an element of that. Because seconds ago, they were hanging him.
yeah.
So I know what you're coming back to.
It's just, I don't know.
How do you hang someone and go, let's just let him go?
Yeah. It just thought it was. I just thought it was a little bit lame. Just that one bit where it was almost like they all look around each other and go, "We just wait for the sequel then," because you know.
I've got a couple of things, and again, sometimes my criticism isn't just aimed at the movie that we're talking about. It's probably aimed at all movies, but I just think there's too many lines that have been put in that were purely for the trailer.
Oh yes. Yeah.
They're not for the movie. And I think Keira Knightley's, you like pain, try wearing a corset, just seems for the trailer that. And the one that doesn't make any sense either in the scene is with Barbosa and Jack. And he says, "You're off the edge of the map, mate. Here they be monsters." And you're like, and then it just sort of cuts away, and you're like, there was no reason, and it felt like that was put in after. Like they sort of went, we need something in that scene, and then they wrote a line, gone to film, and went, that's for the trailer, that. Because if that line means absolutely nothing in that moment, because Jack's already, Jack at the time is a skeleton himself and stuff.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. Those lines that just stand out, that you can tell have just been added in. Also, the bit that bugs me, it's just, I don't know if it's a continuity thing or whatever, but when Barbossa is shot by Jack, and obviously he's turned back to green, isn't he? And he falls in the water, and he drops an apple, but he never had the apple in his hand. Anyway, they were fighting.
Yeah.
And that bit just bugs me. It's just a little continuity error. And I'm not one for like looking for mistakes and stuff.
But
and I don't watch those series that like you get on Channel 5 and it's like 100 top errors in films. I hate watching it because it does spoil films.
Yeah, you can't.
But this one in particular,
Something about it.
there's just something about that where again, it just seems like someone went, wouldn't it be cool if like his apple floated away? And they were like, well, how do we do that? We'll just put it in his hand.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the scene where just before that, where Jack takes the piece of gold because it was the only way he could become cursed by thinking.
Yeah.
That was put in later because when he did a test screening, the feedback came back. They weren't too sure at what point Jack always cursed as well. He didn't realise, and he hadn't actually filmed that bit where he picked up gold. And remember, it stood out because it is quite complex plot, and it's not the greatest plot, but it does. It's quite nice to have a Hollywood film that's got a little bit more complexity in the plot.
Everyone wants something, and I think in any film, no matter what the character is, you've got to look at them and go, right, what do they want? So even the James Norrington character wants to marry Elizabeth, probably wants to be an admiral and stuff. Everyone in the whole film wants something, don't they? And I think maybe with that scene, thinking about it now, maybe they just cut it, because what would have been good was when he gets shot and he says, I can feel. Maybe he takes out the apple and bites the apple. As
his last moment, he got to.
Because he hasn't tasted something.
He got to, that would make more sense to me, But just going back to the bit where he steals the gold coins, and a bit always stands out to me, that bit where he takes the coin. And apparently they didn't have that shot filmed, so instead of doing a retake, they managed to have I think it was an outtake of almost, and he reversed it, so it's actually him putting the coin back in, and then he slowly reversed it.
Clever.
So I think it just... Maybe something always be like it didn't sit right with me, but apparently it was like, I'm like, I love little things, like
little tidbits. Like.
But there you go anyway.
Right, so for season 2 we have our new feature. Me and Liam have both written questions for each other. I've got a box of questions. Liam's not seen, doesn't know what's in them. Liam's got a box for me when it's my pick. So
it's called the mystery box.
Put your hand in the mystery box. Very piratey in itself.
Better be in some treasure, isn't it? There you go, that one.
So, what one have we picked this week? Okay. Bear in mind something that you said before about you can't imagine it, but recast this movie with an 80s cast.
Oh, recast it with an 80s cast?
So I had a little bit of time to think about this.
Okay.
Because it was a question I knew and I knew films we were going to be talking about. Do you want me to tell you who I would have picked?
Go on then.
I've gone with Jack. I picked 2. I thought Charlie Sheen.
I was thinking who's
make a good Jack. Eddie Murphy.
Oh,
that's a good one, isn't it? And for Elizabeth, I went with Winona Ryder.
Yeah, I think Winona Ryder was more that early 90s vibe. I mean,
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Do you want me to tell me will though?
Go on then.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I can see that.
Go on, who's yours?
I am going because she's your archetypal. What's the word? Archetypal 80s girl. Is it Molly Ringwald?
Molly Ringwald, yeah.
as Elizabeth. Just because if you go in 80s, just
She was in everything,
you see
wasn't she?
her and she, oh, no, I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind already. What's his name from Dirty Dancing? Jennifer
Grey.
She'd be me Elizabeth's one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good shout, yeah. Would you have Patrick Swayze as Jack Straw? Jack Sparrow,
No,
sorry.
it'll be too obvious. I am gonna have Kiefer Sutherland though, and
As Will.
I don't think he's a Will.
Is he your Jack?
I don't think he's me Jack. I think he'll be.
Is he the Norrington?
No, I think he could do Barbosa. Like, I know he's age wise. It will
Yeah.
just hit me mic there. Age wise might not work, but I feel like he could bring a bit of oof to the role. If we're going Will, I'd have to go Tom Cruise. He's like
Yeah, that's a good shout, yeah.
no.
Scrap it.
Michael J. Fox.
Do you know what? I nearly wrote Michael J. Fox, and I thought I changed my mind because I went with Mark. I thought I'm going Mark Hamill because
That leaves Jack. Who would Jack be in the 80s?
So just to recap, you got Jennifer Grey as Elizabeth.
Yeah.
You've got Michael J. Fox as Will.
Yeah.
So you need a Jack. Oh, you've got Kiefer Sutherland as Barbosa.
Yeah.
You need a Jack then.
For the Norrington character, hang on. William Dafoe.
William Dafoe.
Yes.
You're not going British for that one, though?
No. I
Okay.
just think he would be interesting as that complex role where he could be a bad guy, but he's actually not. I'd like to see William, because bear in mind in the 80s he was a lot younger as well, do you know what I mean? But who would be me Jack be? So you'd have to try and find some equivalent 80s actor to Johnny Depp. Someone who's a bit less.
And don't forget, they don't have to play it the same way.
Yeah.
It's just who do you think, who's an actor from the 80s that would have made a good version of Jack? And they don't necessarily need to be the Keith Richards. That's why I think Eddie Murphy would have been really good.
Eddie Murphy would have been interesting. I am going to go for, and it's obvious because we mentioned before, Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford as Jack?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah.
Would he play a comedic star?
No, I think he'd go straight, but he would do what Harrison Ford does, just that little bit of moments, that little bit of self-awareness in there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know who else would have been good? I don't know how old he was in the 80s, but Wick Mail.
Oh, like, I swear to God, he was attached to this project as well.
Oh, was he
at some
really?
point, yeah. Because before, I remember reading earlier, before Jerry Bruckheimer took it on, and when the idea was going to be quite a low budget, Rick Mail was associated.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Pure guess.
that would have been interesting.
So what impression, if any, did it make?
Oh, well. Big budget, 140 million, which is a big budget. Like at the time, it was a big, and you can see where the money was spent. But it was a tidy investment, Dave, because it racked up 645 million in the box office. That's impact.
Nobody expected that.
No.
I think everyone was expecting another Cutthroat Island.
Yes.
Which was the big pirate flop, wasn't it? Which I think again was made for like 100 million and probably made about 2.
But as a whole, the franchise eventually pulled in 4.5 billion, which is quite incredible. And I think that we mentioned before, it's the 15th biggest movie franchise ever, which was like.
And Johnny Depp got nominated for an Oscar as well.
Yeah.
Which is like.
Well, that was the next point I've got. Literally, it did make Johnny Depp. He went from being not just a cult, but a very respected actor, but it made him basically a worldwide movie star for this period where he was the biggest. He was one of the biggest names in Hollywood, and he still is. I know everything that's gone on recently, the court case, is so Hollywood as well. Do you know what I mean? Some of the stuff that's come out, but he's a big name. You know what I mean? He's a bit crazy, but hey,
do you remember any other films prior to Marvel having a post-credit scene like this one?
No, not there must be, but no.
I can't remember one really like actually having one, and because this came out before Iron Man.
Yeah, 2003. Yeah. Iron Man was what, 2009?
It's 8, I think.
2008. Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it had any influence on Marvel. Just
I hadn't even
having
thought of
scene.
that. Yeah, no, don't know. Is it? But above all, it did make pirate films cool again. But no one else has. I don't think no one else has pulled it off really. Since I don't think we really had any pirate films since. There was around the same time the Russell Crowe Master and Commander was.
Yeah, which is played serious.
Yeah, which
isn't
is
it?
a good film as well. But around in there, but we haven't really had. And I think that's going down to like the budget you need to pull it off, because I think to pull it off you've got to go big, and if you're going to go big, Jerry Bruckheimer is your man.
So how can we watch it?
Disney Plus. They're all
Simple
on
as,
Disney Plus.
yeah.
I love.
Are they all on there? Yeah.
Yeah.
The full franchise is available. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's bothered about the last one, Mike, but you know.
So if we like Pirates of the Caribbean, we're going to discuss what else we'd like. I've gone with 2 themes. First theme, because of what you've just said about the budget and what it made, I've gone with surprise hit movies.
Okay.
So Saw was only made for 1 million and made 103 million. Blair Witch only cost $60,000 to make, and it went on to make 248 million.
Blair Witch project, wasn't it? Yeah.
Did you ever watch like a VHS copy of it and got told it was real? Because I did.
I remember going and seeing the pictures, and which is strange because I do not do horror films in any way, shape or form. Do not care for them. It'd be like if you said to me every horror film could disappear tomorrow, would not blink one eyelid. I don't care for them.
I do like them, but I do remember when it came out and we were told it was real, wasn't it? It wasn't for like, I think it'd been out for like a few weeks, wasn't it, before it was actually said. But a film that you've already mentioned, King's Speech, that was only made for 15 million, and that made $414 million. Kevin Smith's Clerks, 27,000, made 4.4 million. Star Wars, went on to make 775 million. So they're my surprise hit movies.
Okay.
I've gone with movies set on a ship or set in water.
Oh.
Titanic.
Yes.
Life of Pi.
I know we've slagged Titanic off previously. It is still a good film.
Oh, the last hour of that film.
Yeah.
It's a good action film, as you're going to see.
Yeah.
Life of Pi, Das Boot, Jaws, Perfect Storm.
Life of Pi is a great job.
Poseidon Adventure. Have you ever seen Triangle with Melissa George?
No.
That's a really good film set on a boat. It's sort of a bit of a time travel kind of weird feeling to it. Dead Calm with Sam Neill and Nicole Kidman.
Oh,
You've seen that in Billy Zane?
I think I have. It's a while since I've seen that, yeah.
One that we've already mentioned, The Boat That Rocked.
Yeah.
Because Jack Davenport was twatting it. But it's
not a twatty, he was twat.
Can you think of who it stars that links to previous episodes?
Both the characters from IT Crowd.
Yeah, you got Catherine Parkinson and Chris O'Dowd from the IT Crowd. Bill Nighy is in it, who then is later in Dead Man's Chest, one of the other Pirates films. I've gone with 2 Tom Hanks films, The Greyhound and Captain Phillips, both set on ships and both amazing. And then Hunt for Red October with Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin, who obviously plays Jack Donaghy in 30 Rock.
Oh, nicely played. I was getting a bit worried then 30 Rock wasn't going to pop into it. All right then, so my other ones like this is, and I mentioned it before, no one would have the balls to make a pirate film, but have you seen the TV show Black Sails?
Not yet. This is not the Taika Waititi. That's the other one, isn't it?
No,
This is the serious one.
So it's Toby Stevens plays Captain Flint. It is fantastic. It is so. I don't know anyone else who's ever watched this TV series. I found it a few years back, and it's just amazing. I need to talk about the ending to someone. It's a prequel to Treasure Island. It's Captain Flint. It's basically. It's set in the days before Treasure Island.
Right.
If 4 series, it's fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. So, if anyone out there has watched it, get in touch. But it has been so long since I've seen it. I need to go back and rewatch it. It is fun. Sam Hooper, who's in Umbrella Academy, is in it. He's really good in it as well. And then later was in Game of Thrones, which I feel like if you like Pirates of the Caribbean, you like Black Sail, then you'll sort of like Game of Thrones because it's
a big epic.
Yeah, it's an epic. As a film, I've chucked in Dungeons & Dragons on Among Thieves that we've just seen. I feel like it's a very similar vibe.
Yeah, the comedic elements to it as well, and the action.
Yeah, so I'm going to chuck that in. And then I've gone for a little franchise theme going on here. So, to me, as a franchise, it's most like Indiana Jones. I can see a lot of similarities, except the way they play the main character. And it was quite funny when I mentioned about Harrison Ford before. A franchise that's quite critically acclaimed, the Dark Knight trilogy. It's a franchise, but it's still critically renowned as one of the best franchises. I think if you're going to go with going down that franchise route, if you want a franchise that's in the top 20 and yet a little bit left field, Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, it's Pirates of the Caribbean on land, isn't it?
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, it is. And I just think and then another franchise, because there's the third film coming out, the Paddington franchise. I just think everyone in this world should have Paddington in their lives, especially Paddington 2. It's just watch it.
So that was Liam's choice this week, which was Pirates of the Caribbean, and you should watch it if you can. This was a Watch It If You Can production, executive produced by Kenny, our Val's lad, on Work Experience.
Don't forget to follow, rate and share from wherever you get your podcast from.